Hello, design lovers. I'm Ashley Childers, and today I'm sharing my top 15 designer tips for small spaces. These are my tried and true tricks for creating rooms that look and feel bigger. And each tip is so good, so you're going to want to stick around for them all, I promise. Now, I know you're going to love today's video, so be sure to hit the subscribe button as we drop a new design video every week. Let's dive into small space tip number 1, and that is strategic storage solutions. Maximize storage wherever you can in your small space. So this means taking your storage solutions from floor to ceiling if you can. Think about built-ins or cabinetry that goes all the way up, bookshelves, things like that. Also, think low. There can be some great storage solutions low, which could be under bed storage solutions, or maybe something that's even in an ottoman. And lastly, be really specific and personalized with your storage inside of your cabinetry and your closets. Tip number 2 is circular tables. Now, this is a great solution in any size home if you need to maximize your walkways around your furniture pieces, or if you have like a tight breakfast nook or dining room. When you opt for a circular table, it frees up so much floor space and creates more flow in your rooms. Small space tip number 3 is to stack your wall art and wall decor vertically. We want to bring the eye up and create interest on a wall vertically. So think about taking smaller pieces of art and then instead of spreading them around the room, stacking them vertically. I even like to do things like take a piece of art and put maybe a more decorative sculptural wall art piece on top of it. Adds so much interest to your small space walls. Tip number 4 is large scale mirrors. So when you are incorporating a mirror into your small space, which I highly suggest you do, go big with it. Not only does it expand the space, but it also bounces light around the room. Now, you don't have to just go with a wall hanging mirror. A lot of times we like to incorporate large leaner mirrors, so it looks like a floor mirror, but it leans against the wall. It's a great way to incorporate a large scale mirror into a room. And you can also put a piece of furniture in front of it, a pedestal, a chest. It just adds a lot of interest and depth into a small space. Small space tip number 5 is to add layers of lighting. So let me explain what I mean by this. When we think about lighting in our spaces, we've got ceiling lighting, high, middle lighting, which is all of our wall sconces, and then maybe some floor lamps, and then lower lighting, which would be table lamps. So you want to try to incorporate all those lighting levels within your small space. It adds a lot of drama and interest. Now, when you're choosing a chandelier for a small space, unless you have particularly high ceilings, opt for a chandelier that has a lower profile and can mount close to the ceiling. Also, when you're thinking about putting lamps in your space, especially if you're have a very small room, think about adding those lamps towards the corners of the room. At night, it's going to extend the room and make it look and feel bigger. Tip number 6 is to choose appropriately scaled furniture for your small space. Now, we want everything to fit like a glove. So take measurements of all of the areas of your space so that you are equipped with exactly the size that you need for your furniture to be. Everything now seems like it's overstuffed and grand, but we don't want to take up premium square footage in our small spaces with this huge sofa. So opt for sofas, chairs, dining tables that are the appropriate scale for the area. Also, another little pro tip is if you have a small dining area or a breakfast nook, Opt for a dining chair that does not have arms. That way you can push it all the way underneath the dining table and open up the space to use it for walkways. Tip number 7 is to go vertical with our applied architectural moldings and tile. So we want to create volume within our small spaces. And architecturally, a great way to do that is to run our applied molding like tongue and groove paneling or picture molding in a vertical design. Also, if you're choosing tile for, say, your kitchen or bathroom, have the installers put it in a vertical pattern. Maybe go with a subway tile, but run it vertically. That's going to create so much more vertical space in your small rooms. Small space tip number 8 is to go large with your rugs. So let's talk about this because there's a couple of different applications. When you are putting a rug underneath a seating grouping in a small space, I really want you to think about taking that rug as far out towards the walls as you can. You want all of the furniture within that seating grouping on top of the rug. Now, if we're talking about a rug underneath a dining or kitchen table, I want you to make sure that your rug extends at least 3.5 feet past your table. That way your dining chairs can scoot in and out and stay completely on the rug. Lastly, if you're choosing a runner for your kitchen or your hallway, think about going wide with it. Very thin, narrow runners make a hallway or like a kitchen in front of maybe your range look smaller. So go wider with your runners to create visual space in those areas. Tip number 9 is to keep your window treatments cohesive. So this could apply to drapery panels or to Roman shades or something like that, a valance. Think about keeping all of the window treatments a similar fabric. And then also a lot of times a great way to extend a space is to have your window treatments be a similar color to your wall. You don't want them to be very, very contrasting to your wall. Lastly, when you are hanging your Roman shades or your drapery panels, go as high as you can. They don't necessarily need to be right in line with the top of the window molding. Go all the way up to the ceiling as you can. You're going to extend the eye up and bring more volume to your small space. Tip number 10 is to extend the eye with a monochromatic color palette. So this can apply to paint or wall treatments, also to your furniture. You just don't want super high contrast in a small space. The more enveloping the color palette, the larger the space is going to seem, regardless if you choose a light color palette or a dark color palette. A lot of times I hear people say, oh, we have to go light and bright in a small space. That's not necessarily true. You just want all of the colors within the small space to feel cohesive. Small space tip number 11 is to add space-saving charm with built-in seating. This is such a great tip and a really great way to maximize your small space. So think about banquettes, a built-in bench, a window seat, anything that creates a seating area that's built in and maximizing your wall space. Tip number 12 is to opt for multifunctional furniture and accessories. So this could be an armoire that you can store things in, your accessories, a bar cabinet, a buffet, a chest of drawers. Maybe it's a large box that you have on a cocktail table, baskets that stack, trays, anything that you can use as a functional piece that's also beautiful. It's going to maximize your storage in your small space so efficiently. Tip number 13 is to clear the clutter and decorate your small space in an edited and sophisticated way. So when we're thinking about all of the decorative elements in our small space, I want you to keep them pared back just a little bit. When we enter a room and when we are in a room, hanging out, our eye needs some negative space. And that is very true in a small space especially. So pare back your decorative accessories, give everything a little bit of room to breathe. It's going to elevate your small space and make it feel more sophisticated. Tip number 14 is to add symmetry, either with architectural details, lighting, or your furniture and decor. So let's break that down just a little bit. When we're thinking about architectural symmetry, we can create that with, let's say, 2 bookshelves that flank a doorway, or maybe it's an archway that creates some symmetry in a space. When we're thinking about it with lighting, we could create symmetry with 2 sconces, or maybe even 2 matching lamps that flank a sofa. And then when we're creating symmetry with our decor pieces, we could do that with maybe an art grid on a wall, or putting 2 mirrors on each side of, let's say, a fireplace. Just creating the symmetry somehow architecturally or through decorative elements helps the eye to feel rested and creates additional space within a small room. Our 15th and final small space tip is to incorporate folding pieces. So this could be something like a secretary, a Murphy bed, maybe a drop leaf table, or even a kitchen countertop extension that folds up or pushes in when not in use. Anything that creates additional space and can be folded away when not in use is such a great way to add additional function to your small spaces. Okay, friends, who's ready to jump in to these 15 designer tips for small spaces and incorporate some of them into your home? I know that for me, I'm currently designing the renovation of our cottage. This is a really small little home. I think it's like 1,200 square feet, and I have to maximize every single inch in that house. So I am going to incorporate a couple of these small space tips into our renovation. Now, if you enjoyed this video, and I hope you did, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments if you have a favorite small space tip from today. And if you love all things design like I do, follow us on Instagram at Ashley Childers Home and check us out on Pinterest. We would love for you to be a part of our design loving community. Now, if you want even more designer tips and tricks right now, you're going to want to watch this playlist next. As always, I'm Ashley Childers. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, good design is for everyone. So create a home that inspires you. Have fun decorating and designing your small space and fall in love with where you live, one room at a time.